got Cameron Scott here, our key account manager at RCN, and I'm Mark Indelicato, the marketing manager, as well as the host today. So excited to talk with you guys today. Number one, there are still 36 million active POTS lines in the United States. So I'll pop this one up as well. We got a kind of poll there, so you can play along with us. What's your thought?
I am of the fact that I believe that that's true.
Yeah.
A lot of different providers have been spread across the country since way before I was born, and they're all buried and still being used, and people are still paying for them. So I believe that that's very possible. Just in the United States alone. Yeah.
That is true. Yeah. It's funny. I've seen 36 million a whole bunch of times. And then I actually saw someone had mentioned 38 million. And that's one of those numbers it's so hard to actually quantify.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the number could actually be even larger than that. It's not like there's a national registry of every single POTS line. I think that's kind of just best estimation as far as the FCC and some big telco organizations have kind of guessed. Let's see. Second one, every POTS line will begin to be decommissioned by the end of the year. So let's drop this one in so you guys can vote. Yeah. So thoughts on this?
Well, that's a very open-ended question.
It is,
because the FCC sunset is a sunset. It's not the sun exploded type of situation.
Right.
So I don't know. It could be, it could not be.
Yeah.
What does the poll have to say?
Right. I'm not seeing people. Oh, there we go. All right. We got myth here. Two answers. I know on that last one, someone didn't vote until after we had talked about it, but you guys are right. Myth. So basically, and we'll get into the details of it, but no, there's not, the mandate doesn't say that they all have to be decommissioned by, yesterday's date or the end of the year. Let's see, last one on this. Some LECs have already begun to decommission their lines. Let's add this one in here. Share now. All right. So there we go. Fact straight up. I know I saw some Verizon people in here. I'm going to guess that that's some of the people who are answering that real quick. That is a fact.
Yeah. Different providers all across the country right now are preemptively cutting off lines. So with this new regulation that the FCC is enacting, they're saying, hey, we're not supporting these anymore.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be funding your own support of them. So if you want to cut them off, you can. Otherwise, it's going to cost you a lot of money to keep those maintained. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at the verbiage here, apologies that it's kind of small, but there was a lot of content in there. And we'll have the notes available for you guys afterwards. But I highlighted the main points here. So first, we permit competitive LECs to order new UNE analog loops or POTS lines for an additional 6 months after the effective date of this order. And then second, we adopt a 3-year grandfathering period for all competitive LEC customers. So they made this just super easy to understand, but essentially this order took effect August 2nd, 2019, as you can see on the bottom there. Then you add the 3-year grandfathering period, which brings us to yesterday. Then you can add an additional 6 months in where competitive LECs are able to offer POTS lines after that effective date.
Yeah, so essentially what they're saying is if these LECs have customers that have a value proposition for them to continue building out POTS lines for them, they'll allow and back that for the next 6 months. But typically what you're seeing with most LECs is that they're either raising prices right now or they're cutting them off completely and sending notices to their customers. I know at the beginning of the year and towards the end of 2021, people were already getting notices from their providers that say, hey, you need to find a different solution before this date. I have customers today getting those same notices on a monthly basis from their providers. It's really location based. It's not, in some cases, some major providers are just saying we're done. But in most cases, that it's location based because that infrastructure in different areas is a lot more expensive than others. So
right. I was doing some research too, before I guess in making this webinar, and I found some plans from the beginning of the year, but I couldn't really find anything newer. So I've seen like some states and some locales really that were looking to be targeted, but there's not any one way to do it. Everyone's kind of taking their own spin on it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So let's talk local exchange carriers. So talking Verizon, and I am pretty sure, I'm gonna double check if any of you Verizon people are on here yet. Yes, I see at least one. And if I'm wrong on anything, feel free to correct me. I did as much research as I could. Like I said, not everything's published, but looking at about 12 million locations still being served with copper. The plan's initial focus was New England and Pacific Northwest, from what I could find. And they're deploying more fiber in areas that'll see copper retirement, which, I mean, it's kind of hand in hand there.
Yeah.
An easy handoff.
Yeah, the providers are still focused on upgrading infrastructure, but for a lot of this old infrastructure, it's now like we've been talking about. The FCC is not wanting to back it anymore. They're wanting to back new infrastructure. So carriers like Verizon and AT&T and Lumen, who own all this legacy equipment and lines buried in the ground, they're all looking towards the future. So that's why you and your end users and your customers are all trying to find new solutions. And even within the next 6 to 12 months, there's going to be a very large increase of interest as they're getting these notices from their providers trying to find something new.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing too, I just want to point out a bit of housekeeping. So we're going to have the Q&A session at the end, but there is a chat function on the right there, kind of beside the polls. There's like a little tab at the top. If you guys have any questions, we'll try to get to them. Honestly, I would love to wait until Q&A, but I get impatient with it. So I like to answer questions as they come through, but we'll see how it goes. So drop any questions you have was essentially the long and short of it. Cool. Let's talk AT&T. So approximately 60 million locations are still being served with copper. I'm trying to remember who it was that AT&T had acquired years ago that has a lot of, was it Bell South maybe?
Yes.
I'm thinking, yeah. Bell South. So it's a lot of those lines still.
They gain them through acquisition.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, their plan is to cut that number in half to 30 million by 2025. And similar to Verizon, they're focusing on fiber. So that's the areas that they're prioritizing. When I was doing the research, I know I had seen, I don't think they had announced any strict shut-off dates for this location or anything like that, but it's definitely coming.
Yeah.
Definitely coming down the pike. Last one in LECs is Lumen. So they have approximately 28 million locations that are still being served. This one was interesting. In the plans I wrote where they had sold off ILEC assets in 20 states, and that accounted for about 7 million of those locations. And then they're keeping 16 states or 21 million. Honestly, just, for industry-wise, it was interesting to me, right? It's that last dot there, you can see they're going to accelerate their fiber rollout as well. But it's just interesting seeing what everybody's doing and how they're tackling it.
And if you have never heard of Lumen before, they recently changed their name to Lumen from CenturyLink. So you probably have heard CenturyLink.
Oh, okay.
Lumen is now CenturyLink is now Lumen.
Oh,
so,
I see.
Yeah, awesome. They did a name change. I believe it was 2021 or 2020.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I had seen CenturyLink whenever I was researching. I just assumed they had acquired them or something. But very
new
neat
name.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So that brings us really to what you can do today. Man, we're moving through this quick. So there's a couple different options on the table for you. So we've got the waiting game, and that's essentially just waiting for, if fiber's going to
reach out to you.
Yeah, the provider to reach out to you, letting them know that the shutoff is happening.
I can speak to this.
Absolutely.
There are, as you saw, millions of different customers right now playing the waiting game, and they don't even know they're playing the waiting game.
Yeah.
They're just paying their monthly bills for these $100+ POTS lines, and they're just paying them because it works, right?
Yeah.
And they're so used to paying them. It's been that way for multiple eras.
Yeah.
So some people may be playing the waiting game and they don't know. They need to be educated that there are solutions out there.
Yeah.
So this is a great topic because just as we're talking about POTS line replacement today, we need to educate our customers on it. because they may not be aware of it until they get that notice in the mail or notice in their email saying you need to find a new solution for your POTS lines, because we're eliminating support of it completely. So
absolutely, yeah. And from what I understand, a lot of people really don't go too in depth on their monthly bill, for example. So I mean, costs are rising, as carriers are attempting to move off of these analog lines. But I mean, really, the cost of everything's going up, so it might not trigger any flags necessarily. And I know in some of the installations we've done, some of our customers were paying for lines that weren't hooked up to anything or weren't being used, right?
And they were just paying the bills, thousands of dollars a year.
So no, that's just one of the interesting things. There's a lot of savings, I think, that can be had there for sure.
A whole lot of savings. We'll get into that later.
Definitely. Fiber. So fiber's another option. You want to take this one?
So really what all these LECs are doing is upgrading their infrastructure with fiber. Typically, they're not pulling out and replacing. They're more so burying next to it. So fiber obviously is what is now being widespread throughout the country and has been for the past 10 to 20 years as fiber has come more and more cost effective to roll out. So all these LECs are focused now more on, as I mentioned earlier, they're focused on the future and building out their networks on fiber, and not as much so on old copper lines. Providing that much faster, more reliable communication.
So what about people who aren't in, necessarily the path of fiber right now? What's the outlook kind of look like for them?
If they're not in the path of fiber, really the only options for communication when it comes to internet would be either satellite or 5G LTE. That's really the next option for communication is wireless. So a lot of, as you saw these names up here, AT&T, Verizon, of course, there's other wireless carriers out there. They are all backhauling all their connections via fiber. All those towers are controlled by fiber. So even though you may not be getting fiber to your house, it could be supporting the cellular infrastructure behind what you are communicating through.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. And then we've got options like POTS Link from Artec Solutions. Go ahead.
I was going to speak to POTS Link. So if you guys have not heard of POTS Link is Artec Solutions product and answer to POTS line replacement over LTE. What's nice about POTS Link is it's a direct pull the cord and plug into the POTS Link device. A little bit of provisioning on the back end has to go into it during the pre-sales process. However, this is a great alternative to legacy POTS lines that are getting cut off. Not only that, but they're cellular powered. So as we were talking about just a minute ago, current communication is upgrading to fiber and cellular. This is a direct solution, much more cost effective than existing copper lines going to these 66 blocks in everyone's building. This is a great replacement option for those POTS lines, and was built specifically for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And really, one thing that I normally say on our other POTS webinars, I didn't really put in this, but I'll touch on it for a second. You're actually gaining some features with with POTS Link or, a cellular solution. For example, ours will, how am I trying to word this here? If a line goes down, for example, we'll know instantaneously. And you'll get a notification. It's that 24/7, 365 visibility. Versus, I guess, with POTS lines, it's just
let's use an elevator as an example. Elevator communication relies on those old legacy POTS lines. So there's a POTS line coming into the building, terminating at the 66 block, and then it's going from the 66 block to the communication in the elevator. If somebody drove into the telephone pole running that POTS line to the elevator, you would never know that line is down until they realize that connection has been severed. Or worst case scenario, there's an emergency in the elevator, they're trying to call out and it doesn't work. There's no way of knowing with those old lines that line is down. With POTS Link, with it being a connected solution, it gives you visibility in the cloud to see if it's online. And on the back end, we have visibility to see if that line is communicating. That's a great point you bring up about that.
Yeah, you worded it a lot more succinctly.
That's okay. It's always good using examples.
Absolutely.
There's many different use cases for POTS lines, whether it's elevators, fire alarms, SCADA applications, fax lines, blue lights at college universities. There's all kinds of them. Airport communications. All kinds of them. So if you believe that you have customers that are utilizing POTS lines and you want to teach them further about it, reach out to us. Let us know. We're the experts in this product and solution to, one, save them money, and two, add value to their organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a couple of different avenues for that. RCN webinars, you're already here, so you've taken a great first step. We also have news and articles on our website, and we'll also share those out on our social feeds. So we like to take a lot of time, make sure we're giving the correct information. And really, that's kind of the point of this webinar as well. Is it's been kind of shorter so far that we've moved through this content, but there's just been a lot of misinformation out there, I think, about the FCC order and what's going to happen. And
it's a lot of confusing information. So we're trying to help here make it transparent, because the last thing you want is your customers or yourself even to not be aware of it, and then it just drop in your lap and you have to figure out a solution. Why not get ahead of it if you can?
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Awesome. All right. So we can help. We are 5G and LTE enablement specialists. We've been an elite partner with Cradlepoint for, was that 3 years? And I don't remember what the red ones are. It's too small for me to see from here.
I can't. But
we've been one of Cradlepoint's top partners for the last 6-7 years. So we specialize in 5G and LTE network solutions. And getting the right solution every time is one of our most important core values as a company, right? If we can't do the right thing for you, we'll let you know that up front. We're not going to just sell you something that might work for a few months and then you're out. You're sales, so talk to that at all?
It's our goal to make sure that we're selling you the right solution, and our salespeople are very technical and trained on the products that we sell and offer. So the worst we can tell you is, unfortunately, we can't help you with this. However, we typically know the person that can, and we'll help you connect with those people if that is the case. But our goal is to provide that right solution every time. So when it comes to cellular enabled solutions, we are those industry experts.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some free resources. I've actually got a little pop-up. Let's see, share now. There we go. We talked about that free POTS evaluation earlier. You can click on the link there. It'll take you to a website, fill out a little form, and then we'll be in touch with you to get that scheduled out. We also have the notes for today. Again, fill out that form. We'll get that sent out to you. I think
Q&A.
Yeah, there definitely is. Let me just get past this.
There it is.
Boom. There we go. Q&A. So again, drop any questions you have in the chat. I have a couple prepared here that I can roll with if we don't have anyone say anything. But really, how are a lot of the businesses that you've talked to reacting to this news? Just with the FCC mandate, what's everybody doing?
I would say most of them are uneducated. To be quite honest, I think that it's one thing that they've just been used to paying for, as I mentioned earlier, and they just keep paying it and they keep using it until it drops in their lap. And like you mentioned, they are reacting to it. They're not being proactive about it. So us educating them on it is helping them be proactive about it. These webinars are helping you teach your customers. And even if you're utilizing them yourself, it's helping you be proactive about it. So it's definitely our job to help spread that word and help the world know that, hey, this is changing. Get in, find a solution now before it's just dropped in your lap and then it's a fire drill, right?
Absolutely. So. I don't think anyone ever goes wrong by being proactive about something. So we got another question here. How long is the average installation time for POTS-Link? Ooh, that's interesting.
That's a great question. So it's definitely depending on the infrastructure, but typically it could be scheduled within a couple weeks, and the installation itself is typically same day for a single location. So it's all dependent on the infrastructure, and if any form of external antenna may be needed on the building, because sometimes where these 66 blocks are located are in bunkers, and we want to make sure that the cellular solution is getting a great cell signal. So depending on that, and how many locations and and depending on how much time will be needed for an external antenna, if that's necessary. If not, it's even faster. But typically for like a one location POTS replacement, it's about a day project. Nothing too strenuous. There's no burying of lines or anything that come into the building. Like I mentioned earlier, unplug from the 66 block, terminate a RJ11 jack on it, plug it into the port that we've pre-configured. So very straightforward. The most engineering that goes into it is making sure the RF is getting to that router.
Absolutely. So on some of those variables, are customers required to know this in advance, or how do we sort of determine some of those things ahead of time?
So whenever you get on the phone with either me or one of my colleagues that sells these solutions, what we walk through is making sure we have all the line information that needs to be ported to our solution, and then making sure we get installers scheduled accordingly. That's where that multi-week thing comes up, because if you're porting out a phone number from a provider, we have to get that provider to release that number. Sometimes I've seen that provider take a month or two to release that number to the new provider. And unfortunately, that's not on us at that point. That's on that provider to release after we've sent in that request. So if you're porting numbers, that can increase the time to switch. But typically, on most cases, it's about a week or two, sometimes even sooner if the provider is very responsive that we're porting from. Other options are getting brand new numbers. That expedites the process. If you're not stuck on a number that you're currently using for those old POTS lines, if you're not stuck on it, the porting process isn't necessary. So we just build a new number, ship out the kit. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. I had one more written down here. I only saw the one come through. Do you think there's any chance the FCC will? Obviously, they won't extend the date. We've gone past it now, but maybe something new will come out. We'll be like, okay, we'll give you another 6 months, or we'll give you a year, or anything like that. Or is the demand essentially gone for it?
The demand. So for the POTS
lines, yeah. Sorry.
The demand is still there because a lot of equipment today that is running off of that, those customers paid for and they still want to utilize. So I would say the demand is still there for POTS lines, like the physical connection between one device to another. Unless they're investing into their infrastructure to build a more connected solution. But for a lot of different applications like SCADA or like elevator lines is a perfect example. Again, that communication between the elevator and where the device is terminated at, let's say it's a POTS link, that's a great example of that. So, I know we did the RCN 5G LTE enablement specialist. We talked a little bit about that. But for everyone out there that is watching this, we do specialize in POTS replacement. So as those conversations are coming up, loop us in. Even if you don't know how to have that conversation, we are the experts in that conversation. So give us a call, whether that's me, Mark. We have many other resources here that are able to have those conversations with you and or your customers to open up that conversation with them. It could save them money. If you're a carrier, it could bring you into a new opportunity, and also provide more value on both aspects. So please reach out to us. We're always here to help and educate. So
only thing I'll say is, you were saying could, provide value, could, give more opportunities. I think it's likely to in most cases.
Yeah, correct.
So it's not a toss-up. No, you're good. just pointing that out. But thank you guys so much for hanging with us today. we'll have another webinar probably in maybe another 3 or 4 weeks. So keep an eye out for that. Most of the time we'll put it on LinkedIn, and I know a lot of people joined from email today. So keep an eye on your inbox. But thank you guys so much.